All right, everyone, even the legacy media is now pouncing on Elizabeth Warren, who, by the way, she's already said she's not going to run for the presidency, so I'm not sure why they include her in top 10 lists of likely contenders. She's already stated flat out that she has no intention, and isn't she like 73 or something? Yeah, it's going to go over really well. Elizabeth Warren proposing a new act to reform capitalism. Now, what she means is to adopt full-on socialism, turn the slightly market economy-driven interventionist system we have today, in which most of its systemic problems are due with the interventionism and the lack of free trade. She wants to convert it into basically full-on workers' socialist paradise. That's basically what her suggestion boils down to. Now, if you watch what the more left-leaning or liberal-friendly media is saying, they're not focusing on that. They're just saying, well, that denies that businesses will look out for their own profit interests. It won't work, and there's no way that this could ever be imposed. That is, that they're focusing on it not being pragmatic, not that it's non-virtuous or whatever. They want socialism. They know that they can make more corporate cash once the government makes even more monopolistic ventures. Yeah, big businesses love socialism, at least in name only. But here's the thing. Here's what's actually happening. This is an extension of what has been happening with other Democrats. You've got to notice patterns if you're going to talk about politics. It's just like when you notice that everyone who's being banned and deplatformed on big tech is not a bigot and happens to do a lot of live and or journalistic on-the-ground content. That's a pattern. It's a pattern that once you predict seems to hold astonishingly true even after you predict it. I know it has for me. All of the groups there that are being truly abused on the worst level, they all have certain things in common. That's the same thing for these Democratic politicians who keep getting attacked. They're being attacked by two people who have totally different reasons for attacking them. Donald Trump, who likes to do it via Twitter usually, and the legacy media now. Why would the legacy media attack someone like Warren? After all, wouldn't they focus on Trump? No, that's too short-sighted. Think about their larger grand strategy. They want to knock the further out there candidates out of the way for the moderates and for the missing link candidates that will straddle the line like Gillibrand. I think she's being groomed by a lot of people behind the scenes to run in 2020. Now, they're not going to groom just one person. They want to at least provide the opportunity for people to be led into the delusion that there's been some sort of contest. But they don't want a field crowded with people from the far left that are going to drown out all the moderate candidates by doing what Trump did, which is be further out there and have more rabid, a smaller fan base in a crowded field. They know that they run the risk of someone like Maxine Waters actually being nominated if that happens. They would lose terribly and it would rip the party apart. They'd force the neoliberals to actually acknowledge that they've got a problem in their campaign strategy. They don't want to have to. I think that they're forced to eventually. They're trying to stave it off as long as possible. So they're attacking Maxine Waters and Elizabeth Warren and people, and they're even attacking like the concept of political deplatforming right now. They're doing that to try to snuff out the further left. They don't want a far-left candidate. They want a neoliberal who's controlled by them. In other words, corporations. Legacy media is comprised of a bunch of multinational big corporations, the big six basically, that control virtually all legacy media. They control virtually all cable and a great deal of newsprint. A few dozen human beings control virtually the whole corporate media apparatus in the U.S. They both own other companies that don't have anything to do with news, and they have partnerships with companies that have nothing to do with news. They are oligarchic, corporatist, Gilded Age style Rockefeller / Vanderbilt and Rothschild style individuals. That's who ultimately they are. They don't want a progressive candidate. They wouldn't actually want a Bernie Sanders, not unless he bent knee in secret. It'd be a bunch of controlled opposition bullshit. And then you've got Trump. He accomplishes two tasks by attacking these people. On the one hand, he's starving of attention those that are actually viable. The neoliberals and the missing link candidates that are actually going to be coronated by the DNC, he's starving them of attention. He's putting people like Elizabeth Warren, who is insane, Maxine Waters, who is insane, Kamala Harris, who's pretty close to insane, and then people who won't run and who are just really convenient punching bags like Nancy Pelosi or Feinstein. He wants them on the forefront. He wants them to be the face of the Democrats. It makes them a lot weaker than if the face of the Democratic Party is someone who's maybe can smile for the cameras and schmooze and more like Obama or something like charismatic or a dark horse candidate. He doesn't want them to be the symbol of the Democrats. He wants it to be someone like Waters. At the same time, Trump realizes that a large proportion, maybe not even a majority now, but a large proportion of self-proclaimed Democrats likely to vote for the party will refuse to vote for a neoliberal if he stirred up enough discord to get them to back someone like Waters or Warren. If you have dedicated blocks in a hyperpartisan, semi-dichotomous race, hyperpartisan, small but significant blocks of some hundreds of thousands or millions of people coalesce behind some of these figures, like this happened to Bernie Sanders. The Bernie bros, almost none of them voted for Hillary Clinton. They can say that it's 7 out of 10. I don't believe that even slightly. I think that self-reporting is woefully wrong. What ends up happening is that you're taking millions or tens of millions possibly of people out technically of the Democratic Party based on which candidate they've nominated. Because you've created, because they hate Trump so much, they're never Trumpers, whoever he's targeting gets all the kudos. So if he can target a few totally non-viable individuals who are thinking of running and get millions of people to accept no other alternative than that they be the nominee, especially when he's going to inject it into people's minds the DNC's screwing them, which it probably will, let's face it, he wins. Because those millions of voters, some of them are in the Rust Belt, some of them will be in swing states. It's a very good political strategy. It's already beginning to work a little bit before the midterms. It may not save the Republicans. They may lose the House, although I don't know that it actually matters so long as they gain control in the Senate. What he really needs is supermajority control of the Senate so he can ram through all his nominees and basically face no repercussions from people like Schumer. That's what he really needs. I still think it's less than 50-50 that the Republicans lose the House. I'm looking at polling. I'm questioning some of the polls that are released over time. CNN polling, it's like Rasmussen. So polling firm shows the Republicans down like 10 points in the generic ballot. But the same polling cycle, it shows Trump with 50% approval. How can this fucking possibly be? It doesn't make any sense. Why would landline phone people, they're like, yeah, I love the Democrats, but I also love Donald Trump. No, that's not sensible. And the CNN polls and Gallup at this point, they were one of the least accurate in 2016. I think that they're still using their skewed metrics. I trust YouGov. In YouGov, it's basically a 4 or 5 point gap in the congressional ballot, which makes sense. The Republicans are behind. We need to understand that fact. They haven't been ahead at any point during this cycle. We've got to understand that. Turnout will inevitably be, I think, on their side anyway, though. In the final total, you can get people whipped up in local primaries to outcompete their Republican opponents, maybe. That's not going to make any real difference in the actual midterms. Everyone's going to be in a frenzy come November. Trump will see to it. Look, he's good at doing that. He's good at generating excitement. He's going to be running interference for the Republicans. And then in Trump's approval, it's probably 44, 45. He's probably around the magic number already, and he is rising. Some polls show him the Gallup showing him at 39%. I'm like, no, I don't think so. As far as Elizabeth Warren, though, her plan, the left calls it non-pragmatic, the right calls it socialism. Both are technically true at the same time. She's nuts, but the thing is she's not running. But Trump wants to focus on her, and the legacy media wants to beat on her to make sure she doesn't run. They're terrified she will. They know she can't win. Elizabeth Warren's too crazy, too old, and has too much baggage. Plus, she's not really at this point capable of coalescing the progressives behind her. She's had that wind sucked out of her sails by people who make her look sane. So they know she can't beat Trump. They're afraid she'd actually run and that she'll have enough corporate backing to actually become the nominee. I guess she'd probably be hazarded in states even like California at that point because people would be so pissed off that the Democratic Party had acted in such a way. That's about all. Peace out.